Good morning. Today we are continuing with our coordinates and our coordinate planes and being able to graph things. We're going on to CO48. I can find the slope of a line using a coordinate plane. So we're going to use that last objective, talking about those coordinates, and we're going to see how we use those to find a line and then how to find the slope of that line. So the first thing we have to know is, what is a slope? So a slope is how a line moves across the coordinate plane. So remember, the whole graph is our coordinate plane. And we want to know, is that line how is that moving across the X and the Y axis? So we want to be able to follow that line. So here's how we do that. To find the slope of the line, you're going to look at your vertical change. Vertical means the up and the down, over the horizontal change. Horizontal is how it's moving across left and right. Horizontal. So vertical is the up and down. Vertical is when you go up and down. Horizontal is when you go across. There's another way to word that. We know that vertical going up and down. What axis is that? The X or the Y?
Y.
The Y. The Y goes up and down. So we can say that it's the change in Y over that horizontal going across is the change in X. Another way to look at it is when we go up and down, we call that the rise. So think about like a balloon rising up and down as it's getting filled with helium and the helium's coming out. So we call it the rise. And then going across that x-axis, it's like you're running across. So you run straight or you run backwards. So that change in x, we call the run. So a lot of times you'll hear people refer to the formula for slope to be rise over run. So you put that change in the y, your rise, that balloon going up or down, that's your rise, that goes on top. And the bottom is the run. You're running across the ground. Rise over run. So let's see what that means when we're actually looking at our graph. Plot the two given ordered pairs, which we did in our last objective. So we need to remember that this is the y-axis that goes up and down. This is the x-axis that goes across. And our ordered pairs are always x first, then the y. So we're going to graph the two ordered pairs, and then we're going to connect them with a straight line. If you have your ruler with you, you can use your ruler to make it an actual straight line, or you can just try to draw the straightest line that you can. So if you don't have your ruler with you, it's okay. You're just going to try to draw it as straight as you can. Then you're going to find the slope of each line. And we're going to show the change in y over the change in x. So our first step is plotting our ordered pairs. So we have -4, 2. So we're going to plot that. We're going to go -4 up 2. Then we're going to plot our second one. -3 up 5. And we can see where those plots are, where we plotted them. And now we're going to connect them with a line. And I'm not just going to draw from one dot to the other, because that would be a segment. That would be stopping at one end and the other end. This is a line. Remember, lines go on and on and on. So we want to show that this is a line by going a little bit over and putting an arrow, going a little bit over and putting your arrow. So that's how we know it's a line that's going to continue on.
That's it?
Nope, that's our second step. That was connecting them with a line. So we plotted, we connected with a line, and now we're going to find that slope. So there are 3 steps: plot, connect, slope. So to find the slope, we're going to find that change in y, the rise, and we're going to put that on top. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to say, well, how many up did I go? I went up 1, 2, 3. So I went up 3. So I'm going to put the 3 on top because that's my rise. That balloon rose up 3. Now I'm going to find my run. How many do I go over? I went over 1. So my slope is 3 over 1.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. What?
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard. It just takes practice. The biggest thing that tricks people up is they like to put the X on the top and the Y on the bottom. The rise is your Y. That goes on top. A lot of times people flip it. So be careful. Make sure you're doing your rise. You go up over your run. Let's do another one. We're going to do another one to help it, because a lot of times you get one example and it doesn't sink in yet. That's why we do more than one example together as a class. Okay, so as we practice, really pay attention, and if it still doesn't click, maybe we'll do another one. Maybe we'll work at the side table. But if we're looking at our next graph, what's our first step? Plotting our pairs. So we have 1, 6. So I'm going to go over 1 and up 6. Then we have 5 and 3. So I'm going to go over 5 and up 3. So everybody should be plotting. Then we have to do step 2 and connect. So I'm going to go a little bit over each dot, and I'm going to put my arrows because it's a line, not a segment. So I want to show that it's going to keep going on. So now I'm going to look at my slope, that rise over the run. And this time, we always read the graph from left to right, like you're reading a sentence. So we're going to start at this plot, but this time, instead of rising up, our balloon is sinking down.
Oh, man.
So we go down 1, 2, 3. What do you think we're going to have to do to show that our balloon went down, JT? Negative, because it's going down, and we know negative numbers on that thermometer are going down. So we're going to say that rise is a -3 because we went down. Now we need to do our run going across, and we always go to the right for the run because we always read from left to right. So that run is always going to be positive because our positive numbers go to the right. So our run, we're going over 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to put that +4 on the bottom. So our slope is a -3/4. Okay, so we have our 3 steps. We have to plot our pairs, then we connect them and turn it into a line with the arrows, and then we do our rise over run. So if our balloon is rising up, and we're going up, then it's a positive. But if our balloon is sinking down, losing that helium, it's going to be negative. The run going across is always going to be going to the right. We always go from left to right. So the run will always be positive. It's the rise that's going to tell us if it's a positive or negative slope. Are we feeling a little better about it?
Yeah.
Let's do one more. Matthew?
I'm confused with the negatives. I get the positives.
So remember on a thermometer, on this y-axis, here's our 0. If we're going down, it's negative, right? So if we're at 0 and we go down, we have our negative numbers.
How do we know if we're going down?
So that's a good question. How do we know if we go up or down? We're always going to start on our left plot. Look to see where your next dot is going to be going to the right. So if we're over here, can my next dot on my line go down? No, because to go to the right, we have to go up to get over to it. So you're looking at that line, and we remember we always read from left to right. So you look at which direction your line is going. Is your line going up? Then your rise goes up. If your line is going down, then your rise goes down. Does that make more sense? So look at your line. That's how you know. Let's do one more together. First step, plot our dots, plot our pairs. So we have a -3, -3. So we're going to be down here. And then we have a +1, +5. Second step, connect our dots. We're connecting with that line, putting the arrows on the end because it's not a segment, it's a line. Third step, I need to find my slope, my rise over run. So I always start at my left plotted pair, my left dot. So I'm going to start right here. Am I going to rise up or go down? Gigi? Up. Because I'm looking at that line and my line is going up. So I have to go up. How many up am I going to go?
A lot.
It is a lot. We have to count it. So some of us are saying it's 8. Let's count up and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is it a +8 or a -8?
Positive.
Why is it a positive?
It's going up.
Because we went up. It's only a negative if we have to go down.
Oh.
So over here we have to go down. So whenever you go down with that rise, if you have to fall down, it's a negative. We don't want the balloon to come back down. We want it to keep going up all the way in the sky. Luciana.
How do you know whether you're going up or down? Like I know that.
So that's what Matthew was asking. We have to look at our line. So you always start at the left dot, and we always read from left to right, like you're reading a sentence. So in order to go to my next dot, you have to look at where that second dot is. The line goes up, so my rise has to go up. So always looking at the direction of the line to know if you're going up or down.
Isn't it like when the dot comes first?
Yeah, the dot on the left. So whatever dot's on the left, that's where you start. Then you look at your second dot and say, is that line going up or is the line going down? If the line's going down, your rise is going to go down and it's going to be a negative. Riziki.
Oh, so why would you start at the bottom of the line instead of the top?
Why did I start at the bottom of the line instead of the top? James?
Because you're going up, right? It's a positive number.
Why did I start at the bottom of the line? Why didn't I start at the top of the line?
Oh, because the -3 is the first one on the left.
Because it's the farthest dot on the left. We read from left to right. So you look at your graph, and you start at which dot you hit first, reading from left to right. That makes sense? So I have to finish my slope. I counted up 8. We're not waving out the door. What is my run going to be? JT.
5.
Let's check and see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we don't look at what the Y was here. We look at how far over we count. And you should actually be drawing the lines and counting it as you draw your line. So we were right here and we went over 1, 2, 3, 4. So you actually want to count it up. Draw the line and count it as you're going up. Draw the line and count it as you're going over. So don't just guess it and say, oh, I think it looks like this, because we have to be very precise. There's a reason why we have to be really precise. Because in later math, we're going to want to continue our line and plot a point that's not on the line using the slope. I'll show you real quick how to do that. It's pretty fun. But the first thing we want to do is when we look at our slope, what kind of math does that look like? What would we call that? 8 over 4 is a what, James?
Fraction.
Yeah, it's a fraction. And it's not a proper fraction. We can simplify it. Okay, so we can simplify this fraction. I can divide a 4 out and say it's 2 over 1.
I have to do that?
Good question, James. When we see fractions that can be simplified, do we have to simplify them?
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Fraction?
And here's why. Here's why we're going to simplify our slope. Because we're going to use that slope in later math. So we're going to set up good work habits now to help us when we get to later math. And I'm going to say, oh, I need to continue my line. I can graph 2 over 1. I'm going to continue my line and say I'm going to go up 2 over 1. That's going to be my next line on, that's my next dot on my line. I could do it backwards. There's another dot on my line. And we know that we could keep on going like that. And that's how our line is going to continue. So we can use that slope to continue our line. We're not continuing the lines today, but we will be. Okay. James.
So are we going to simplify our fraction right now?
Yes.
And wait, how is it a fraction? Like, how is it become a fraction?
So the rise over the run works the same way as a fraction. Just like when we had ratios and we could simplify our ratios. So we're simplifying the same way we would simplify a fraction.
Okay.
Just like we simplified our ratios the same way, we're simplifying our slope the same way.
How would we simplify a negative and positive? You just...
Good question. So let's say this was, instead of negative 3, it was negative 6 over 4. I could divide out a 2. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So you keep that negative in the same spot, and you just divide out what you can divide out of both numbers. Any other questions on this? So this is a 2-page assignment. So we have this first page, we've got 3 more to do of plotting and drawing your line and then finding your slope. Then let's look at our second page. It says plot the two given ordered pairs, connect with a line, find the slope. Same directions. We're doing the exact same thing on the second page. So what I would do on this second page is just remind yourself that it's rise over run. And we know that we always read from left to right. So you plot your two dots, start with the dot on the left, rise up or down. If you go down, it's negative. Then go over to the dot on the right, and that is your slope. Yes?
On the second page, can you do the fifth one? I mean, not the second page, the first page.
The first page? Yep. Let's go back to the first page. And then real quick on the second page at the bottom is our review. Reviewing that algebra that we've already done using those variables. So we've done these reviews before with our variables, solving for the n. And then with our inequalities. You're solving the same way. But on the bottom here it says solve and graph. So remember, that's when we draw that line. We find what n is, and we're going to put it down here. And then you have to say, is it an open circle or a closed circle? Am I going to the left? Am I going to the right? So remember how we graph those inequalities. You can look back at our previous objectives to remind ourselves, because we will be having a test at the end of next week. Okay, so we do need to remember how to do these previous objectives because that test is coming up. All right, Ethan wanted to go over this one?
Yeah.
All right, so what's our first step, Ethan? Nope. We're going to plot. We're going to plot. So -5, +4, +4, +3. What's our next step? Do you see how I got those plots put in?
Oh, shoot, yeah.
Did you count something as a negative instead of a positive?
No, I put 3 first and then went up.
Oh, yep. We always have to do the X, then the Y, because it always goes alphabetically, X, Y. So if you ever forget which number's first, is it the Y or the X? Always remember your ABCs. X, Y, Z. So X is the first number, then the Y. So let's finish this one out. So we have to connect our dots, draw your line, put your arrows on. Then our third step is the slope. So I always start on the left, and then I go to the right, and I see that my line is going down, so my slope goes down. So what does that tell me about my slope? It's a negative because I went down, and I only went down 1. Now I need to count my run. How many over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I went over 9 to get to that dot. So it is a -1/9 for my slope. Jillian.
I just flopped the numbers. So I did -9 and then 1.
Yeah, and if you do a -9 on top with the 1 on the bottom, it's going to give you a whole different slope. So that's going to make you go all the way down here and over 1. That's going to be a whole different line. So be careful that rise always goes on top. Riziki.
Oh.
All right, for my friends at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.